Welcome to Unsung Heroes with Johnny, Daniel, James, and Sam. Our goal is to leave no hero unsung. Welcome, everybody, to episode 1 of the Unsung Heroes podcast. My name is Johnny, and I'll be the host of this series. And I'm joined here with a few of my friends. We have James.
Hey.
We have Samuel.
Hey, what's up, guys?
And we have Daniel.
Greetings!
And the goal of this podcast is to leave no hero unsung. That is our purpose. That is our reason for being.
Appreciate it.
And so the way this is going to go is each episode, a different one of us is going to share about a different unsung hero from history, somebody who we think deserves more credit. And then at the end of the podcast, we're going to write a song, record the song, slap it on at the end. So officially, they will no longer be an unsung hero.
Beautiful.
Love it.
In that way, we will leave no hero unsung.
Wow.
What
What a goal.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's going to be great, guys. It's going to be a great journey. I'm glad for all of you listening here. Thanks for joining us. If you guys enjoy anything you're hearing, please give us a review. Tell some of your friends and family about this podcast. We're really just a bunch of amateurs, so we would really appreciate you guys doing that for us.
Yeah, why don't you tell them, Johnny, where we're recording right now?
We're in a closet. Yeah, we got some of my sweaters surrounding us.
Yeah, great sound
Nice.
studio, you know? Just
Yeah,
a good
high
setup.
production value.
Very much so, yes.
Nice.
So why don't we kick it off just with us telling a little bit about ourselves. James?
Yeah, my name is James Gilbert. I am currently doing my master's in archaeology, and I am in the same location as Johnny, so we're actually recording together. But the other two guys, of course, are not. So, Daniel, why don't you share about yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Daniel. I am from Turkey. That is my fun fact.
He's our resident Turk.
Yes.
Yes, I'm the in-house Turk of
The
this
true Ottoman
podcast.
right there.
Every podcast has one these days, man.
Yeah, it's all the rage. So
Either that or we're starting a trend.
That's true. Yeah, I
hope
like
so. I
that
think
too.
you're right,
From
yeah.
now on, all podcasts have a Turk.
I would hope so.
But yeah, and I live in South Carolina, not too far from Samuel.
Is that my...
That is your
my-
segue. Yes.
Oh,
That
there
was
we
a
go,
pretty
okay.
subtle hint there.
Yeah,
but
go ahead.
Wow.
Yes.
I couldn't see you wink, so...
Oh, that's all right.
Well, I'm Samuel. I am all the way up here in Greenville, South Carolina. I guess I am the local literarian, if that's a word.
Yeah, actually.
I guess I should
Sure.
know. because
Yeah,
I'm
you created
the literarian.
Only you would know, Samuel. Only you.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, as the literarian, I'm dubbing it a word. So
Oh, is that what literarians do?
Ooh.
I don't.
Yes.
They make
Well,
up. They
that's what
officially.
this one is, I guess.
All right. Well,
You know what? I'll go
I like
with it.
it.
Let's just go with
There
that.
you go.
Good. So now, from any time from now on, you can basically make up any words you want to, and we have to
That'll
go
make
with
my
it.
episodes pretty interesting, I guess.
I'm all for it.
that. I like it.
I feel
like
like
it.
none of us will understand you. You'll just be
Well,
making up words.
It's been 20 years in the making, so
Yeah.
no, I'm just kidding.
There you go. So this episode, we're going to be talking about Mad Jack Churchill. And really quick, I just want to mention, we're going to be talking about different unsung heroes in history. And what we're going to try to do is make it kind of diverse. Each episode about a different person, maybe even a different type of accomplishment, whether it be science or medicine or in war or something like that. And we don't want to focus too heavily on World War I and World War II because, well, there's just a lot of heroes from those eras. And I feel like
very saturated.
yeah, it's very saturated. A lot of people talk about those two wars.
And it's either two things. It's they saved a lot of Jews or
they
killed a lot of Nazis.
Yeah, right. And there are a lot of people who did those things,
Which is awesome, but that, it would get a little stale if that's all we did every single week. So
Right. Yeah. So as a general rule, we're going to try to stay away from World War I and World War II. That being said, Mad Jack Churchill, who we're talking about today, actually was a World War II hero himself. So we're just going to get World War II out of the way break the first rule on the first episode, pretty much.
That's good precedent. I like that.
Yeah.
It's good practice.
Now, we know what you're wondering. Why would you guys do this? Why would you make a rule and break it? To be honest, we have no idea. we are doing this as we go. So
Yeah, it just means the rules don't really mean anything, I guess.
Oh,
That's
yikes.
rule number 1.
Rule number 1, don't follow the rules. No.
All right.
No, let's not advocate that.
Wow.
Okay,
That just creates a paradox, so it doesn't, yeah.
it really does.
And then we go into
Welcome to our philosophy podcast.
Yeah.
Today we're talking about
So by the way, we're going to be doing a new episode every 2 weeks, so stay tuned every 2 weeks. We'll have new episodes up. And so this week, the one of us presenting is James. James is more of a historian than the rest of us, more of a history buff. At least,
just a little bit.
yeah, well,
Just a tiny bit.
yeah, definitely more than me. I don't really know actually that much about history, so
I guess I'm a king of beggars in this sense. So.
what are you saying?
None
about
of us are. Okay, never mind. Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, why don't we just let James take it away?
All right. Well, guys, I am very excited to be finally presenting this man to you because he is quite the eccentric individual, and I honestly am nervous that we might not be able to get through all of the things that he did in his life in the time that we have been provided. But I assure you it'll be quite the ride, and you might leave being somewhat dumbfounded, impressed, and also slightly disturbed by the escapades of just one man. So, to begin, his full name was actually not his parents did not name him Mad Jack Churchill. His name was John Malcolm Thorpe Fleming Churchill. And he actually was born in 1906 in Colombo, Ceylon, which was a British colony in what is now modern-day Sri Lanka. So, like many of us here, he was born in a country that was pretty far away from his homeland. So he was the eldest of 3 sons. And his father's name was Alec Fleming Churchill, who very early on was made Director of Public Works, and his family moved to Hong Kong when Jack was aged 4, at the time still a British colony.
So real quick, let me just butt in here, James. By the way, James mentioned that, like most of us, he was born in a separate country. That's a little information. We were all born in random countries.
Subtle, man.
all over the place.
We mostly grew up in Central Asia, where we kind of all became friends, and so now we're back in the States, and so that's kind of our background.
And I thought that was kind of fun. I think, honestly, part of Jack's life, I think a lot of his personality, perhaps, was really due to the way he grew up. And I think really growing up overseas in this way did have a profound effect on his life in the future. So I found some fun connections that I really enjoyed, and I think you guys will like seeing here in a little bit. But yeah, so he actually moved to Hong Kong when he was 4. But then by 1917, this is at the onset of World War I, he moved back to, this is actually towards the end of World War I, he moved back to the Isle of Man in England when he was about 11. And so from then in 1926, or until 1926, he'd gone to the Dragon School, to King's College, and he later graduated from Britain's premier Royal Military Academy in Sandhurst.
Wait,
Wow.
Dragon School?
Yeah, I'm stuck on that too.
Wait, what do you?
I think you lost us.
It was legit. Okay, it's a school. I mean,
What do you? Is it?
What do you
for
do?
Dragon? What? I don't
it's
understand.
such a cultural thing. We're like, what? Dragon
Do they
School?
teach you how to train your dragon?
Oh my gosh.
Okay, please.
All right. Well, let's
Get out.
get him. Yes, and so he actually then went to Britain's premier Royal Military Academy in Sandhurst, which is just southwest of London. So growing up, I'm assuming he had a lot of exposure and was very aware of what was going on during World War I, which, knowing him later, I'm sure he was very eager to get involved militarily. But after he graduated, guys, in 1926, he eventually joined the 2nd Battalion in Burma in India. And it was during this time that he won his first military medal, and he got the Indian General Service Medal with the Burma clasp from the Burma Rebellion of 1930 to 1932. So there was some small minor rebellion in the region. He participated, got a small medal. This was kind of the beginning of his military career. But what I think is awesome about this, guys, is while he was in India, he actually motorcycled across almost the entire country.
Wow.
He really
Wow.
loved riding on his motorcycle, and this is kind of a trend that continued way into his older age, but he loved to ride motorcycles and to test cars.
So
He got on a motorbike and traveled all the way across India, and the only thing that stopped his trip was by running into a water buffalo. And
What? like actually crashing into one?
yeah, he's riding in a motor. Like, I kid you not, he's going across India, and he's just made it like a super long way. And then he just runs into a water buffalo, and he like kind of has to call it quits at that point. So
Wow.
I don't know
I mean,
any details beyond that.
I think I would call it quits after running into a water buffalo.
In the journey of every great man, there stands a water buffalo. So.
Really? What is the water buffalo in your life?
It's kind of defined him. Yeah.
Have you guys seen water buffalo? Those things are massive.
You know, I actually don't really know. Like, I mean, I know what they look like, but I don't.
They're really big.
So to be honest, this guy sounds like a travel vlogger at this point.
If he lived today, he would be like a vlogger, but during a war, like just highly insensitive.
Dang.
That sounds a little insensitive. Yeah, it's a little insensitive.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, so moving on. Motorcycled across India, did a lot of different things, of course, in his life. In 1932, Jack actually returned home. And I think based on what I could find, this is when he started taking up archery. So Jack just...
Wait, so when you say home, do you mean like England?
Yes,
Or, okay,
yes,
yeah.
of course, a difficult question for someone like him, but yes, home.
Far away from the
when I say
water
home
buffalo.
now. Right.
Right. Yeah, he's got to
He
get
basically ran as far away possible.
from the water buffalo. He was scarred for life.
So he goes home, right, and he starts taking up archery. And during this time,
Like any
he
normal
gets
person.
back. Yeah.
Right.
In 1934, he joined the 2nd Manchester's division at Strensall near York. And eventually he was continuing in that, but apparently he got tired of military life. And in 1936, after just about 10 years in the military, he resigns from his commission temporarily. And his friend later on said he suspected it was because he was bored and also because he didn't get a promotion that he really wanted. And the funny story is that apparently he'd also begun taking up bagpipes at the time. I'll tell you about this later, but he really loved bagpipes and he got really good at playing the bagpipes. But one time he piped at one of his superiors at 3 a.m. in the morning when he was walking back to the guardhouse. Which got him.
He piped at him.
Yeah, that was the phrasing that his friend used when he described the story. But
Hey, you piping at me?
Piping at me, boy.
Stop your piping, boy.
But no, really, like so apparently that put him in like bad standing, but also when he was taking a military test, he studied the wrong set of materials on accident for an exam that pretty much ended his chances at a quick promotion. So I think at that point,
Oh.
yeah, you know
Relatable.
when you invest,
It's like a sitcom moment.
yeah. Just wait. Okay. You know when you like invest a lot into something and then you just get totally ruined and you're kind of like, man, I'm done. Like I'm just not
Yeah,
gonna.
story of my life, dude.
I put too much into this. It all
Sounds like
failed.
some people's lives.
Here's a story though. Here's a story, guys. When I was like 7 years old, I did taekwondo. And did I say that right? Taekwondo?
Taekwondo.
Taekwondo. Okay. When I did taekwondo and I got like through a bunch of, white belt stuff. I was a little kid. And then one day my mom was like, hey, James, you have taekwondo tonight, but we have an event going on. Why don't you just stay home? And, it's just some kind of test they're doing. It's not really that important. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. That sounds fine, Mom. I'll stay home. And then the same day, my friend comes home from the class and he has a yellow belt.
Oh, no.
I kid you not. I lost out on my yellow belt. And I was like, no, I'm done. So I never did taekwondo again.
Top 10 anime betrayals right there.
It was like the day.
Yeah, right. I still don't let that down. Like my mom still knows to this day that I'm very bitter about that. But
He still hasn't gone back to.
It still isn't there.
in a similar fashion, of course, Jack left the military. But during this time, he became really close friends with a guy named Rex King Clark. Now, I actually found a book or a memoir written by Rex King
Dope
Clark.
name, dude.
It is kind of
Rex King Clark.
That is a cool name.
The
Dude.
dynamic duo
think-
of Mad Jack and Rex King.
Rex King Clark.
No,
conquering
really,
the
these
world.
guys were a duo. I mean, they had a lot of incidences together that were really cool. But he got good friends with Rex, and Rex actually wrote a book way later on after Jack had passed away, and he wrote it for Jack's wife. And he basically chronicles a trip that they took together all across Europe. And in 1936, so this is after Jack has resigned, Rex was in the military at the same time, but he'd gotten injured in a plane accident. So Jack was basically like, hey, while you're on leave of absence, why don't we just go travel like the world together, basically. So while he was on medical leave, they traveled everywhere. And the story that Rex tells about their life, I think is a really cool look into Jack's personality, but also just some of the things they would get up to that were really interesting right before World War II. So first they went up to Scotland, and Jack, of course, being like really into bagpiping, would often stop and serenade women along the way. Like so many times Rex was like, we stopped in this village and we found some girl at some house, and we like asked her if she'd listen to Jack play the bagpipes, and they would like dance, do the Scottish dancing and all that kind of stuff, and they would play the bagpipes. I just thought it was hilarious.
Wait,
And-
I can't imagine trying to serenade somebody.
I know,
with a
yeah.
bagpipe. It's more like the least romantic.
It's more like he would pipe at them, right?
Yeah. Hey, baby, you ever been piped at?
Yikes. Oh, man. Yeah, no, seriously. So he would go and serenade people along the way, and they traveled. Eventually, they decided to go to Europe. And so, they were in Europe, obviously. Well, somewhat. They were in Europe, but they decided to go to Paris first. So they went to France, and they went to travel through
That's
Paris.
in Europe, right?
Yeah.
That's
Last-
somewhat.
last
That's
time I
pretty
checked,
seriously.
Well, I was referring to Scotland, which, anyway.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
We're not talking about politics.
Yeah.
Oof.
That's
Anyway,
a complicated
so
thing.
they first will go through France, and then they eventually go into Italy. And on their way to Italy, they stopped and explored a shipwreck. And basically, Jack sees this shipwreck right on this off the coast while they're traveling in the south coast of France. And he climbs onto this shipwreck just in the water, and then he gets out his bagpipes and plays a song of lament in their honor while he was completely naked.
Of course he did.
Did he?
I
have
don't
to
know
add
the
that?
mentality here.
Yeah, seriously. His friend is like, dude, no, you can keep your clothes on for this one, man. Like,
Yeah, beautiful
this song.
song, dude. But do you really need to take
Yeah.
your clothes off? I mean,
how do you bring a bagpipe but not shorts?
Oh my gosh.
So he gets on. That's just one example of just Jack just had no chill sometimes, and he just loved doing crazy things, and he had no fear. Like I think there was something about Jack that I don't know. I think he just didn't care about fear. It was like, why do you have fear? Like, just get over it,
Why do you?
Why yeah, anyway, so that's one example of what they did. So while they're going on their way to Italy, they eventually make their way to Rome. And at one point, as a funny story as well, they're stopped by the proprietor of a restaurant who sees them wearing kilts, and he's like super excited. He says, "Hey guys, come on inside," and he gives them free drinks. Basically, because he had a movie poster in his restaurant of a Scottish Highlander wearing a kilt. Like he sees that poster and he says, "Hey, you guys, you're Scottish, aren't you?" And they're like, "Well, not really," because he actually wasn't Scottish. He just loved Scotland. But he brings him in there, gives him a free drink. Another thing they did in Italy, they go to Mount Vesuvius, and at that time they had a lot of tour guides who would give you tours up Mount Vesuvius, but only to a certain point. But Jack, of course, was like, "No, I'm going to the top. Like, I'm going." And so he tries to convince all these tour guides to take him to the top. And finally, one is like, "Okay, I'll take you up higher." So he goes up as much of the mountain as he can in his kilt. And he keeps going. And eventually, there's, it gets really dangerous up there and he can't go any further. But he just had this idea that if anything stands as a challenge before me, I'm going to overcome it. Another example is they're actually on the island of Capri off Italy. And Jack had heard the story of several soldiers had on this island when they were invading during a war, had tried to climb this cliff face on the island there. And he said some of the soldiers had died in the attempt of doing it. So Jack was like, "Rex, let's go do it. Let's climb the cliff." And so they go and climb the cliff, and they couldn't get any higher. And apparently Jack was super bitter about this. He was like, "Golly, I really wish I could have climbed this cliff." But then later they found out that it was actually a set of stairs that were built into the cliffside in a different part of the island that they'd actually climbed up. And so he was like, "Oh, it's fine. We didn't have to do it then. There's no issue."
Jeez, wait. So you're saying the people who had tried it earlier had used stairs?
Stairs, yeah. And one person had fallen down the stairs and died. And it wasn't actually the cliff face that had caused them
that Jack tried to do.
So Rex talks about how Jack's ego is pretty much. He's like, "Oh,
no,
it's okay.
no,
I didn't climb the cliff because no one else did either."
He's like, "What? Those stairs over there? Nah, they probably climbed the cliff. Let's do that."
Stairs, cliff.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So yeah, and again, I could go on and on about all of their adventures together, but eventually, because of rumors of war and things going on with the onset of World War II, they decided they needed to head home. And during these next couple of years until 1938, Jack did several different things. But one funny thing, Jack was a model at different times in his life. He actually was a male model. Apparently, Rex said that he was always very concerned about his appearance. He would comb his hair and always make sure he looked just right. He also starred in a couple of films. silent films at the time. One of them was called The Thief of Baghdad. And I did some digging, and this film, my goodness, Daniel, you would love this film, man. It's just, everyone wearing turbans and on cameras. And it's the most.
Why would Daniel like that?
Yeah, what are you suggesting?
He's a resident Turk. This is why we have him.
I might have ridden my camel here this morning, but that doesn't mean you can assume.
No, but really, it's like the most Orientalist, just overly stereotyped movie ever. It's really funny, but
like the British view of the Asian world. At the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm sure a post-colonial theorist would have just a blast with this movie. But anyway, the reason they got him on this movie is because he was really good with the bow, and they needed guys to be bow and arrow shooters as extras on the show. So I couldn't find him. I looked at the movie several times and I couldn't find him in the crowds of all the people on sets, but I'm pretty sure he was in there just as some kind of attractive young looking guy with a bow and arrow.
He sounds like the type of guy who would be a stunt double, not
He really could have been, honestly.
So James, I have a question.
Yes.
How is it that this guy managed to get himself into all of these different situations? It's honestly kind of ridiculous how many different situations he got himself into.
Again, it's hard to say. He had this love of adventure, and he loved action, and he had no fear. And plus, I think his upbringing, he was just a very internationally minded person, and he just loved traveling. It's hard to say. I mean, all of his friends talk about just him kind of being a lot, I think at the
so extra.
I think it was maybe the end of this book that Rex writes about him in his honor. He says I wish we had more people in the world like Jack, but maybe not too many more people like Jack.
You just needed maybe 50 more people like Jack.
A couple, yeah.
Just spread them out over the world.
Yeah,
Don't put them all together.
Just keep themselves safe and just.
And it's funny. Even Rex even mentioned he loved his friend, but he even talks about the fact that one of the problems with Jack is that he was so fearless that he almost was insensitive to his troops because he almost thought that everybody should be just as fearless as he was. He didn't get it. He didn't understand that people weren't as crazily brave as he was. So that comes to play later on in his life. But
we haven't even got to the
I know.
World War II stuff.
We're almost there.
The
But
preface.
here comes the big stuff. So 1938. He placed second in the officers' class of piping championships. I'm kidding. he did, but that's not the big thing. Anyway, he actually won second place in a piping contest, and he beat out a bunch of competitors who are almost all Scots. And this was kind of to the surprise and indignation of many people. They were like, "Okay, wait a minute. You're English. Why are you playing the bagpipes?"
Wow, that's like you guys meeting me in a baklava competition.
Okay, yeah. Our baklava is more Turkish than yours.
No, it's really funny though. He loved Scottish culture. I don't think it was a kind of mocking, condescending attitude at all. He just really, really loved Scotland, and that came to play later in his life as well. But yeah, so he won a piping contest, and in 1939, this is early on, but he's also selected for the British team for the Oslo World Archery Championships. So kind of as a prelude, of course, to what's coming in the war, he's very good with the bow and arrow, and he's very good with the bagpipes. Both of these, as I just said.
Wait, what?
You will
What
see.
is he going to pipe at the Nazis?
Yes.
Anyway, okay.
Okay, so basically his friend Rex kind of goes through as well some of his escapades during the war, and he basically outlines 5 different things that were really significant during his time in war. And I would probably agree these are probably the 5 things that he did that are the most well known. So first we'll start off the first kind of thing that he did during the war. So in 1940, Jack was placed second in command of the 4th Infantry Brigade with the 2nd Battalion, and he participated in the Dial Plan, or it was called Plan D. And this was a campaign designed to assist the French in their halt of the German advance through Belgium. And basically, you guys know Dunkirk, right?
Yes.
So this was kind of leading up and coming into Dunkirk when they were retreating through France. Germany's invading France, going through Belgium, and everyone's just trying to retreat. And it wasn't going well. We've obviously, maybe you guys have seen the movie that came out recently. We have some familiarity with Dunkirk, but he was actually a part of this whole campaign. So he was retreating at one point from his position near Brussels, on the way to Dunkirk, when his company commander Tommy Woolsey was injured, which left Jack with
Tommy
Woolsey. Yeah,
Woolsey.
Woolsey. That's a good one. Yeah, he was injured, and this made Jack was then in command of the company during this retreat. So he's on command, and on May 27th, they're holding this small town called Le Epinette. Is that how you say it?
I guess.
Yeah, showing Johnny my notes here. Like, is that Le Epinette? Anyway, so a guy named Donald Featherstone writes in a book called The Bowmen of England. He says that during this holdout in this town, that Jack, climbing into the loft of a small granary, saw some 30 yards away 5 Germans sheltered behind the wall, but in clear view of the granary. Captain Churchill lifted his bow, took careful aim, and loosed the shaft to see his arrow strike the center German in the left side of his chest and penetrate his body.
Dude, what?
He killed a Nazi with a bow and arrow.
Christopher Nolan should make a prequel to Dunkirk. Just call him Mad Jack.
No, really. And I think this could be wrong, but I think that this is the last confirmed bow kill of like any war.
Of any
like,
war.
recent history. Yeah,
Oh,
and
wow.
It's incredible. I mean, because again, tons of witnesses were there. There are variations on how exactly the story took place. Some say it was, he hit him in a different spot of the body, but regardless, it seems pretty clear that he was shot. And also, Rex says that he was actually involved in this campaign at the same time. But when Rex found Jack, he was on the beach at Dunkirk, and he sees Jack come up in his motorcycle.
Oh, of course he's
And-
in a motorcycle.
This is probably more of a military
He
one, I'm
didn't, he
thinking.
didn't leave it with the buffalo, the bison or whatever.
So he writes that he runs into Rex again, or Jack does, and Rex describes that he comes up in his motorcycle with his longbow strapped to the back of the motorcycle. And then he has with him like a helmet of the Nazi that he actually killed. I think he took the helmet as kind of like a memoir
dude.
of the event there. And
What a way to show up, man.
yeah,
Yeah,
I know, it's
seriously.
weird. It's funny. But honestly, at the same time though, I think part of imagine you're retreating and you see one of your guys take out a Nazi with a longbow. That's gotta be good.
Get on a motorcycle.
That's gotta be good for morale. Am I right?
On the other side, just imagine like you're one of his like fellow soldiers, and you just see this guy pull out a bow and arrow and just shoot a Nazi.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
crazy.
okay. Imagine you're a German, and your friend gets shot with a bow or with an arrow, like an arrow in the chest. You look over, and a guy on a motorcycle is like just riding away.
Okay, I don't think that's exactly how it happened.
You're like, what the heck? What kind of people we fighting in this war?
I know. Right? Anyway, so he and Rex both get out, and they are evacuated during the Dunkirk evacuation, and they arrive safely home. Again, this is very early on in the war. A really amazing story. The whole Dunkirk escapade was just incredible. I mean,
Escapade.
Yeah, it's an escapade for Jack. Maybe not for everybody else, of course, but the experience was obviously profound, and I think many people after that would be like, okay, I made it safe, I'm done. But Jack was not that kind of person. I think this was probably just a little taste for him of what was to come.
He's like, Dunkirk? That was nothing.
It's like, oh man, yeah. this guy.
Dunkirk,
Okay.
more like more Kirk.
More like start Kirk.
Okay, I'm gonna move on. So, anyway, further on, we know that in 1941 he married his wife in St. Augustine's Church, Rosamund. Of course, Rosamund Churchill was her name eventually, and she was married. He was married in March, and then afterwards, I think that same year, unfortunately enough, his brother was killed in combat. So that was one really traumatic experience that he did have to go through at the time. And then also in the same year, 1941, however, Jack continued to go and be part of more missions. So in 1941, Jack was part of a military operation in Vagsøy. It's a Norwegian island, and this is off the west coast of Norway. So people don't usually realize this, but the Nazis actually controlled several islands along that area, even up into Norway, even though the situation in Norway wasn't quite like the rest of mainland Europe. But still, on the 27th of December, he led troops from the number 3 Commando on the small island of Malloy. And basically what they do is they're rushing this island to try to take it back from the Nazis. And as he's charging forward, he's blasting his bagpipes to the tune of the March of the Cameron Men. And so, I mean, just imagine this crazy Highlander. I mean, he looks like a Highlander wearing a kilt, running down the beach, just blasting the bagpipes.
Wow.
And the song is just great. I mean, it's just your classic Scottish bagpipe song. It would just be so inspiring to me personally. Maybe it's something in my blood, but I have some Scottish ancestry, so I think that would just be
So you would
again
connect.
morale.
Could
I
see-
think
yeah.
it has an effect on morale, honestly. And Their surprise raid, blasting bagpipes, the surprise raid was actually pretty successful. And eventually the whole island they were raiding was taken without much difficulty. And this helped secure Allied positions in the region. And they eventually captured and destroyed a bunch of German guns and supplies. And it was a very successful campaign. But the funny thing is that while he was celebrating kind of their victory, Jack had a bottle of wine. And apparently the story goes is that nearby an explosive charge detonated. And while it detonated, it shattered his bottle, and a piece of it stuck in his forehead. But he garnered a lot of publicity, back in England, from this event, and people would always talk about, "Oh wow, you're so brave, injured in battle." And eventually, he said about his injury, "I had to touch it up from time to time with Rosamund's lipstick to keep the wounded hero story going."
So he would apply like lipstick to make it look like it was a fresh wound.
Make it look like a fresh wound.
Jeez.
I love it. He was a really funny guy. He had a really good sense of humor, and he was just pretty lighthearted kind of person. But that's a good story. I really enjoy. So again, we have first the situation near Dunkirk, then we have him going to Norway. So this guy is just going all over the place. And then in 1943, Jack wanted more. So he goes and he joins the Salerno assault on Italy. So essentially the Allied forces, when they're coming south through Italy, there's a big region called Salerno, and he was placed in charge of the number 2 commando, and he really loved to run commando raids on German positions with his units, often capturing dozens of prisoners at a time by the tactics that they would employ. But on one particular raid, this is an amazing story. So on September 15th, he is making a raid on a German position in a valley near Pigoletti, and he took his sword and he ran ahead of his men and just took one of his corporals with him. So we have 2 guys. This is at nighttime. They're sliding into this village that's occupied by the Germans, and they're building trenches there. So essentially there's a bunch of artillery guns, a bunch of German troops there who are building trenches under the cover of darkness. And these 2 guys go and slip in. And according to Jack, again, this was corroborated by other witnesses. There are some pictures of them there prior to the actual night this happened. But he goes in there and surprises 2 German sentries. They come on, they have their guns, they say, stand up, get up, just how you capture somebody in general. I don't know how it goes. I haven't done it before.
Wait, so the German sentries are capturing Jack?
No. Jack is sneaking up on the German position, and he takes 2 sentries, right? So what he does is he puts up his gun and hangs it around his neck. He had a little lanyard holding his pistol. And then he drew his sword and kind of placed it behind the German soldier's back, and then uses him as a meat shield as he goes around and secretly he goes into trench after trench. Not meat shield like he was taking fire, but like he's just using him kind of as cover, and he goes into trench after trench where there's small groups of Nazis, and he surprises them and subdues every single one of them until he rounds up over 42 prisoners and a bunch of guns and artillery equipment. So get this, 2 guys go and capture 42 Germans on their own.
And you said
with a sword.
You said he was carrying a sword.
He was. Yeah. He always carried a claymore. It wasn't like a 2-handed claymore. It was like an arming sword claymore. So it was a smaller one. But
I don't know what that is.
Oh yeah, okay. If it's one-handed,
one hand, 2 hand. Okay. Anyway, so he later describes, I'll give you a quote that he actually gave when he describes this. He says, "I always bring my prisoners back with their weapons. It weighs them down. I just took their rifle bolts out and put them in a sack, which one of the prisoners carried. The prisoners also carried the mortar and all the bombs they could carry, and also pulled a farm cart with 5 wounded in it. When we got back, I fed them with our men as if they were another troop, and then sent them, along with the prisoners and other troops that we had captured, about 100 in all, to the rudimentary POW cage, which was virtually empty. The splendid Huns," many British called the Germans Huns. That's back from World War I still. But the splendid Huns settled down to sleep after setting up their mortar with the bombs around it, carefully piling their rifles. He says, "I was told afterwards that the next morning they got down keenly to cleaning their mortar and their rifles after the night's dew. When the elderly dugout who ran the empty POW cage appeared after breakfast, he was riveted and found it full. 'What's going on?' he complained to McGreary, who roared with laughter." And Jack says, "I maintain that as long as you tell a German loudly and clearly what to do, if you are senior to him, he will cry, 'Jawohl,' and get on with it enthusiastically and efficiently, whatever the surrounding situation. That is why they make such marvelous soldiers."
Wow, what a diss, dude.
It's like, yikes, man.
mind games, dude.
Seriously.
Again, it's just a funny picture in your mind. This guy with a sword just taking 42 prisoners, putting him back in a cage. And then waking up the next morning, the guys who's in charge of the POW cage is like, what the heck is going on? So he was awarded the Distinguished Service Order for his achievements, and he played a great part in helping secure the position for the Allies. So again, this just kind of shows you how absolutely fearless Jack was. Just the fact that you run at night into a German position with only one other person, and you're able to do something like that. I mean, that takes incredible courage. And of course,
So you know who the real unsung hero is in this situation would be the guy that went with him.
I know.
I would say it's like
Yeah, because that guy actually feels fear.
he actually has an idea of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
oh man. Anyway, so for time's sake, I will continue to move on. But in 1944, Churchill then participated in the McLean mission in Yugoslavia. Okay, so you know the all the fronts in World War II and all the theaters of war?
East and West?
Yeah, Jack was there. I mean,
He was at all.
Yes.
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 I was just amazed. I mean, this guy really has been everywhere. But yes, he also went to Yugoslavia. And on about June 3rd in 1944, Jack was assaulting the island of Brac with Yugoslav forces while trying to help them defeat the Germans on the coast. So apparently one night, Jack led an assault force on a hill, trying to claim this hill. And he's leading this charge of men forward up to this position while blasting his bagpipes. Again, of course. I mean, it should be a given at this point that if Jack is running into battle, he's blasting his bagpipes. So, but when they're going up this hill, right, their force got bogged down under extremely heavy mortar fire.
Motor fire.
Oh, hey, they got motorcycles too.
Vroom, vroom, eat my smoke.
Quick, get
Mortar
the water buffalo.
Quick, get the Allied water buffalo.
Oh my god! So here, this is a crazy story. So apparently, while they're just getting barraged constantly on this hill, just totally, the mission was a total failure. Jack's still alive, and he turns over on his back while they're lying there helpless, and he begins to play a bagpipe song called "Will You No Come Back Again." It's just a classic tune. You guys need to hear this tune. But while he's playing that song, they get hit by a volley of grenades, and being like one of the very few survivors, Jack just sits there in a complete daze. And while he's sitting there, he gets seized by a bunch of German soldiers. So he actually gets captured at this point.
Oh, no.
Right. And you'd think, okay, that's...
Where was his sword, man? Or his motorcycle?
and you think this would be like the end of his escapades, but no. This is what happens
more.
next, right?
The plot
He gets
thickens.
interrogated by Major General Quebler, a German division commander, who swore that this guy had to be related to the Winston Churchill.
Oh, because his name was Jack Churchill.
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, so I was really confused by this. So I did some digging and I found some census information. And apparently there were 730 Churchill families living in London alone. And this is about 19% of all the recorded Churchills in the UK. And London had the highest population of Churchill families in 1981. So this is a survey from 1881 that I found that basically shows that there were tons of Churchills. So why this commander thought that he was related to Winston Churchill, I do not know.
I mean,
But
I don't think
apparently-
this German commander at the time had the same research as you do about how many
Yeah, right.
Churchill
He's like,
families
wait,
in
I
London
remember the
existed."
1881 survey. Where,
Yeah, like he takes him back and he's like, I this guy's related to Winston Churchill. And he's like, bro, do you know how many Churchills there are in London?
1881.
in London alone, there's like 700.
Seriously.
I imagine it was something like this, though. He was like, you must be related to Churchill. He's like, no, of course I'm not. He's like, that's exactly what someone related to Churchill would say. And so he then sends him to Berlin for interrogation because he wouldn't believe him.
Yikes.
But again, before this happened, though, I think the saddest part is that Churchill then had his bagpipes and sword confiscated.
Oh, no.
Dude, they took away his power, man.
It's like Samson.
Samson's hair gets cut, loses all strength.
Oh, no.
Churchill loses his bagpipes. It's like, what do you do? But one cool story about this before we talk about his time in Berlin and in Germany, while he was being held prisoner in Yugoslavia, he had a German captain in charge of the POWs. His name was Hans Thorner. And actually, Hans was apparently a really nice guy who treated prisoners very well. So Jack became friends with the man and was really grateful for his help. So he wrote him a letter before he left to Germany, telling him to come visit him in England after the war was over. Like, I mean, we have this letter today. I have it on the screen
What
in
a
front of me,
bro.
actually. But he basically says, like, hey, you know, really appreciated how you treated us and you fed us. And I hope that after the war, we can meet again. He gives him his address. You know, he's like, here, I live on this street. Come have dinner with my wife and I. You know, it's just,
Wow.
It's a trap.
it's
No.
amazing. Okay, guys, but here's the cool thing about this. This letter later saved Hans's life when he was tried as a war criminal by the Yugoslavian court.
Wait.
Yeah.
Wow.
So after World War II, he was tried in a Yugoslavian court as a war criminal.
Wait, the Hans was.
Hans. And he basically, that letter helped vindicate him in a way. So that basically saved his life later on. And I
Wow.
think they actually later met again, but it's just a really cool story of something so inconsequential actually goes a long way to change somebody's life. So I thought that was a really cool story.
Wow. Save your letters, guys.
So the next time we're in war,
Yeah.
we're in war, we need to make sure to befriend everyone we can.
yeah,
right?
treat your prisoners well.
That's the real lesson here
Yeah.
today, guys.
Wow.
Anyway, so he goes to Berlin. He's interrogated for a while, and pretty quickly these guys are like, okay, this guy's obviously not Winston Churchill's cousin, okay? Like, he's not related to him. So they sent him off to Sachsenhausen concentration camp.
Sachsenhausen.
Get into Sachsenhausen.
Yeah, it's hard to pronounce. Anyway, but he goes to this concentration camp, and the thing is that he was not here long. After 1 month in September in 1944, he and several officers in the camp dug a hole under a fence and managed to escape. And while he was escaping, he sprained his ankle. And so he was kind of injured running away, but eventually he's captured again in a town called Güstrow. And then he's sent to another camp in Tyrol, Austria. So gets out of a concentration camp, captured, sent into another one.
It's
But
because
then-
he didn't have his bagpipes.
Yeah.
But then get this though, in 1945 in April, he escapes again when the floodlights one night in the
Goodness.
camp broke,
Dude.
and he just walks out. So
Wait,
you know
what?
you know how in all the movies you see concentration camps, right? And they had the big floodlights kind of monitoring
Yeah.
the fence and everywhere in the camp,
Oh,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So those things broke one night, and he just walked out. Like he
Wait,
just
so without the lights, the
Wow.
doors are unlocked? I don't understand.
I don't know. It's like
Our lights aren't working.
The lights are off. Might as well open the doors, guys.
I don't know, but apparently he just walks out and manages to escape. But okay, the area in Austria he was in was very close to the border of Italy, and at that time Italy would have been a safe haven for him, and so he knows this. So basically, he travels all the way up through the Alps, scavenging food and stealing vegetables along the way to survive. And he makes it all the way into Italy, where he finally is saved by an American recon unit. So he
Dude.
finds American forces.
America.
And he says he was so exhausted that he couldn't really say anything to them. He just looks like some, haggard, crazed soldier just kind of screaming at these guys and just out of breath. But he said eventually he gave a salute, very, very British salute. And these guys were like, okay, yeah,
That's a universal symbol. Don't shoot him.
it's a really funny story. But yeah, so he gets out, he escapes from 2 different prison camps. And when he gets out, okay, again, if this was me, I've done a lot, right? I've done amazing things in the war. I've been all over the place. I just got out of
You're
prison.
saying if you were Jack. I thought you were just
Yeah, I
talking
got
about-
confused a second.
It's like, wait,
war are
what
you
did
in?
you do? Okay, you're thinking what Jack is thinking.
Yes, of course. If I was Jack, I would probably think, okay, I've just been in 2 concentration camps. I'm going to call it quits. But no, he basically wanted to get back into it as fast as possible. But he was
the
really
concentration camp or the
the war.
Okay.
What do you think, Johnny?
It's like, man, when those floodlights went out, it just wasn't the same, man.
So apparently, he was really upset that he missed out on the action and was unable to get a promotion that he really wanted, because he really wanted to be in charge of his own commando unit, because he loved
Deja
doing commando
vu.
runs. But knowing that the Japanese hadn't surrendered yet, he decided to try to fight the Japanese in Burma at the time, which is when some of the war was going on. So he tries to go to Burma, but on his way, this is when Nagasaki,
water
and Hiroshima-
buffalo.
The boat hits a water buffalo.
Anyway, the atomic bombs are dropped in August 1945, and the war in its entirety is over before Jack could be a part of it again.
Oh, like Hiroshima. and
Yes,
Nagasaki,
yes.
yeah.
And so, actually, this is the cool thing. He goes to Burma, and this is actually where his friend Rex, again, the epic named Rex Clean Clark, is actually here. And he's reunited with Jack again at this point. And while they're sitting together, I think they get a drink, and they're sitting together. And Jack says this kind of, of course he's joking, but he's like, But if you know Rex, if it hadn't been for those, and I quote, damned Yanks, we could have had the war going on for another 10 years.
Oh man,
Oh my God.
this guy has a problem.
I certainly hope he's joking, but it just shows you some of his character. He just did no fear.
He has no chill.
Yeah, And I think especially our perspective nowadays, when we look back at honestly, the terrors and horrors of World War II, we're always talking about just how we never want this again. And Jack just kind of goes against the grain. He was just like, man, like I wanted to get back into it again. He
I don't know like how commendable that actually is.
I don't know. Maybe this is Unsung Villains podcast.
Yes.
Unsung complicated people.
Yeah. Unsung, we're all fallen.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Isn't
I think that's extremely like raw of him though, because we see him as a hero because of all these great things he's done because he's fearless. But because of that, he also has a part of him that wants more of this conflict and war, which he thrives in.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it's like he thrives in this.
Yeah.
It does bring up an interesting question of at what point does fear become a commendable characteristic?
Yeah.
Because I feel like some of this is just reckless at some points.
Yeah, like
Yeah, no, that's
It's almost
true,
like
that's
he's
true.
like, I've been this reckless so far and it's turned out fine. So
Yeah,
why would I
I
change
guess,
anything?
I guess good for him.
Yeah, I know. It kind of worked. I mean, and the funny thing is that, again, part of his mentality, he later said that he wanted people to just see what he did and be fearless and help raise morale. He thought it was a very effective way of being better and doing better in the war for the Allied cause, because by doing crazy things like running commando missions at night, using a sword, playing the bagpipes, that almost gave people such a morale boost that it actually does have a pretty profound effect on how people are able to fight. And when you're just as crazy as Jack, he's just the kind of person who does it. So again, I think he was joking, but it's still a good question to ask. Like, is there a point at which war becomes addicting to some people? You can talk to
I
some
think it
soldiers.
definitely does. Yeah.
It's an interesting
It's
question.
even because like people who go through war and perhaps have something like PTSD or something, it's hard for them to get back into their normal lives.
Yeah.
Like they can't just go from this high intensity combat
Right.
to just I have a job in an office now. Like it's it's a really jolting transition.
And I think that's a great way. I don't want to, retroactively psychoanalyze Jack, but I think there's something to be said about the fact that he craved adventure and almost was addicted to it. And I think he can never let that go. Because
Yeah, like how do you just find a shipwreck? I've never even been in a situation where that's a possibility.
Guys,
Like,
we need to go find a shipwreck at some point.
yeah, like what are we doing? Just go sail
What are we doing?
and get-
around Italy or
and then
something.
get in the nude and play the bagpipes.
Yeah.
No.
All right, James, we'll let you do that one.
It does show that, because of his fearlessness, he's such a cool guy, but I feel like it proves that fear is a necessary part of our lives because that's what holds us back from, committing atrocities,
Sometimes,
honestly.
yeah,
Because I
sometimes.
feel like with policemen, they have to get tased before they can get certified or whatever, because you need to feel what it feels like to get tased in order to tase someone. It's kind of that idea of like, you need to be aware of the fears and the consequences of something before you carry it out. But if you have someone like this guy who doesn't care, he gets addicted
At
to
the same time, I kind of get where he's coming from in a place where probably fear was just everywhere. It probably was refreshing for some soldiers to look at this guy and be like, oh,
Yeah.
here's a guy who really just doesn't care about fear at all.
Yeah. And honestly, from what you look at,
That's true,
a
yeah.
lot of his work, I mean, I'm sure he was forced into some really rough situations, but a lot of the time he was just trying to capture people, and he seemed to treat prisoners as well. Also, I mean, he seemed like
Yeah.
an amicable fellow who really wasn't there to just.
That's true. Like he wasn't overly violent. It doesn't sound like.
I don't know. I don't get that impression from him at all. And in fact, he did a lot of things that were very honorable. And you'll see later as we talk more about some of the things he did. He did a lot of very honorable things in hard circumstances. But I think about like when you play paintball, and there's just this rush of adrenaline and excitement because of that, like just the idea of like being in combat. It's obviously emulated and it's very minor compared to actual combat,
right,
but
yeah.
imagine the thrill of combat minus the terrible consequences of war, right?
Yeah.
And I think that part of it sometimes is addictive for people, despite the fact that war is terrible and they're aware of that. It's like this thrill of just the adventure, the danger, the excitement that can really be addictive. And I think that was Jack. Like, I think he just craved that kind of,
He's like
excitement.
he's pretty much an adrenaline junkie.
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
Before skydiving was really a thing.
Actually, speaking of skydiving,
Did he go skydiving? Are you serious? I didn't even know that.
So after World War II, he went home and got his parachuting license at the age of 40.
Of course he
Jeez.
did.
And so at the age of 40, he did his first parachute, flight.
Jump,
And jumped out of a plane, So yes, skydiving
Wow.
was
So
also
he really was an adrenaline junkie. This guy literally.
Wow.
If,
I
if-
think
this
yeah,
guy.
I think it all-
If he could have vlogged at the time, man.
Oh my gosh.
would have been some good stuff, man. Yeah.
Okay, so yes, again, he goes home at the age of 40, does some things like getting his parachuting license. He teaches some at the military academy in Scotland, and he actually transfers over and becomes a commander of a Scottish regiment there. So again, showing his really appreciation and love for Scotland. And let's see, then 1948. I'll provide a little bit of background, but this is the next and the last thing that Jack does in the war. And this is not World War II, obviously, but at the end of the British Mandate in Palestine, Jack goes to Palestine to serve with his regiment there. Now, to give you some context, of course, after World War II, the United Nations decides to make Israel a sovereign state and relocate the Jews there in that time. And what happens, though, is at the time, the reason they were able to do that is because Great Britain owned that territory. But of course, when they relocate all the Jews, there's a whole complex mess going on between Arabs and Jews within Palestine. And Britain said that they were going to pull out, and the British Mandate would end around April of that year. And so Jack was sent in there to help kind of tie things up with troops that England had at the time.
he
And
was like
eventually
a-
they were pulling out.
So he was like a diplomat or something.
No, he was still a part of his regiment from Scotland, and he had his troops there. They were doing military stuff, but Britain was basically on the verge of pulling out, and they kind of have taken a neutrality stance. So Jack actually was under orders at this time while he was there to not get involved in any of the conflict. I mean, it was like, you can't attack or defend the Arabs, you can't attack or defend the Jews. We're just pulling out. You're just here to make sure things go smoothly. That was kind of the stuff that he was doing, like transferring envoys back and forth. He was helping at one point he helped get a hospital evacuated, that kind of stuff. But
It's kind of like a
on
peacekeeping unit.
Kind of, yeah. And that's what was happening at this time when Great Britain was pulling out. But on April 13th, there's a convoy of Jews going to a hospital called the Hadassah Hospital. And they're ambushed all of a sudden by a heavy, or by an Arab force that's just shooting them from all sides. And so they're getting completely shut down by this ambush. And Jack had his regiment nearby. And so apparently he goes and tries to investigate what's going on. And again, this is according to Jack, and there are other witnesses, I'm assuming, that have corroborated this, but he walks up by himself alone up to the Jewish convoy that's under fire. And he does this and is not shot once. So essentially, I'll explain to you what he says. So he says, as I was walking along, swinging my blackthorn walking stick, I grinned like mad from side to side, as people are less likely to shoot if you smile at them. Of course, having come straight off a battalion parade, I was very dressed up. And again, Gary tunic, Sam Brown belt, but no claymore, worse luck, kilt, hair sported in red and white diced hose, and white spats. This outfit in the middle of the battle, together with my grinning at them, may have made the Arabs laugh because most of them have a good sense of humor. Anyway, they didn't shoot me. So he goes up with the blackthorn stick and smiles at these guys. He walks up and they don't shoot him.
I think we've just learned the secret to good self-defense right here.
Yeah, seriously.
Just smile like a madman.
It's amazing. And so he walks up, and this is a really sad story, but he walks up and he tries to convince the Jews in these vehicles to get out, because he had his own armored vehicle nearby, and he had a couple troops that went with him to try to get these people out and get them to safety. But the people continually refused to get out because they were like, no, you're not gonna be able to help us. We have Jewish forces coming. They'll be able to protect us. And so time and time again, they adamantly refused his aid. And so Jack eventually has to pull out because he loses one of his soldiers, and they get out, but unfortunately the troops never arrived to save the convoy. And so 77 people were lost in that event, and they were killed. And this was a big deal because Jack kind of got a little bit in trouble because Britain was saying, no, we need to get out of this. This is not our business anymore. But Jack was kind of going against orders, like, no, we need to save these people. So that was a pretty traumatic experience. But later in that same year, Churchill did assist in the evacuation of the Hadassah Hospital, and he helped them get out of there as tensions continued to rise. And he helped save over 500 medical staff and patients get out of danger and into safety. So
Wow.
that was a big thing he got to do later, which I'm sure he was really happy to finally be able to do. But
Yeah.
again, just kind of shows the crazy things that he would do, willing to walk out in the middle of fire to potentially save somebody. So yeah, that was his last and final military adventure. That was up until 1953.
So he survived all the way through the war, everything.
Yep. He survived every
afterwards.
single one of those events. And in 1953, he eventually leaves and goes to Australia, becomes a military instructor for a time. And while he was there, he picked up surfing.
Wow.
Loved it. Absolutely loved surfing. This
Of course.
guy's
Did he bagpipe while he surfed? Like, that would be the ultimate.
it just gets on there, just playing.
Just goes for it.
Anyway, so he actually designed his own boards. Like he really got into it. He surfed a ton. And in 1954, he returns to England and he actually completed the very first surfing run over the River Severn's 5 feet tidal bore.
Oh, wow.
And he took a keen interest in steamboats and remote controlled model ships. And he just loved anything to do with
Like
aquatic
aquatic
boats and
sports
aquatic
and stuff.
sports. Yeah.
Dude.
And yeah, but after this, there really isn't much. He kind of fades from public life, and he doesn't really live in a way that would suggest that he's
Like
you know.
he's not a thrill seeker anymore after that.
Okay, well, I say that, but almost. So when he eventually in 1959 retired from the military, and he of course ended with 2 Distinguished Service Orders and a Military Cross, and he just lived as an instructor for the rest of his life, and he had 2 sons. But he also, still in his old age, took part in motorcycle speed trials.
Wait, like testing motorcycles or
he
something?
would go fast, man. Like he wasn't messing around. But he did stuff like that. One story I love about Churchill in his old age is that when he would go home on the train, he would open a window and throw out his briefcase just onto this yard, and people would be like, "What the heck are you doing?" and he would get to the train station, and he'd later tell people that he threw it into his yard as he passed it. And then he'd get to the train station so he could walk back home without having to carry his briefcase. And I think this event kind of encapsulates the mindset of Churchill.
Wait.
Because he, I mean, think about it.
Like,
Like,
I want somebody to calculate like how accurate you can be throwing a briefcase out of a moving train. Like, can we do the math on that?
well, here's what I'm thinking, right? Like, Churchill did insane, crazy things, but he always had a reason. You know, there was a reason in all of it. But anyway, so again, Churchill lived a long and fulfilled life. He died in 1996 at the age of 89 in
Wow.
Surrey. So
Wow, dude.
yeah, that is the story of Mad Jack Churchill, my friends.
That's
And
incredible.
Wow, that's insane.
can you
What
imagine?
a
like,
man.
What an absolute mad lad. I mean,
Yeah. Using a bow in World War II and just riding a motorcycle everywhere.
hitting a water buffalo.
Running away from them.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think we all need to reflect on what are the water buffalo in our lives. Was it the water buffalo that led him to do the rest of the things in his life?
I think so.
We'll never know.
We'll never know.
Well, anyway, thank you guys for listening, and I hope you enjoyed
Yeah.
learning about Mad Jack Churchill today.
Yeah. Geez. Wow. What a guy.
What a way to start.
Yeah. So first episode. Wow. What do you guys think? Like, geez.
Yeah,
I mean,
sets
it's gonna
the
be-
standards high, man.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be hard to like find people at least as interesting as this guy. Like
Seriously.
he's just so interesting. So yeah, everybody. So stay tuned. In a couple weeks, we'll have another episode out, and we're gonna probably change up kind of the subject matter. Probably not always have to do with wars or that kind of thing, but it might have to do with medical achievements or scientific achievements or something like that. And we'll try to make it kind of diverse as well. But yeah, thanks, James, for doing all that research. Wow, that was a
thank
lot.
you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Loved it.
Yeah. So at this point, we're going to get to work on writing a song about Jack Churchill so that he can be a sung hero officially.
That's right.
So thank you all for tuning in. And right after this, we'll go ahead and play the song for you guys so you guys can enjoy that. But yeah, keep in tune for updates and everything. What do you guys think, Sam, Dan? What do you guys think?
Stay away from water buffalo.
Yeah,
I think
seriously.
that's I think that's the wrap up right there.
Yeah, for sure.
The lesson for us all.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Riding atop his iron steed, armed with sword and bow. Witness the man who can't be stopped except by buffalo. Commander
by day, model by night, his troops he did inspire. Whene'er he found a shipwrecked shore, his clothes were not required.
So tarry not and hold to hope, press on with your attack. The distant pipes grow stronger still, behold the brave Mad Jack,
The man who knew no fear,
Mad Jack,
wore kilts and piped with cheer. His sword and bow aimed at his foes, behold the brave Mad Jack. So tarry not and hold to hope, press on with your attack. The distant pipes grow stronger still, behold the brave
Mad Jack,
the man who knew no fear.
Mad Jack,
wore kilts and piped with cheer. His sword and bow aimed at his foes, behold the brave Mad Jack.
Mad Jack,
The man could not be caged,
Mad Jack,
will fight where war is waged. Look 42 by sword subdued.